the wire in the second game.
I mean, the easy word is fear. Like it was fear. We were a true mid-major. We had the Cinderella My Bleep T-shirts on, and that was about as far as it went. But we'd won a lot of games, and we had dominated conference play. Back then, we were blowing teams out consistently by 25, 30 points. Our league season was just generally a run-through. Obviously, there were a couple other teams every year that came in really strong. I think we lost to San Diego that year, who was a very strong team. St. Mary's was just starting to become the powerhouse they've become. But there was no expectation. So it was just fear, sitting there on a Sunday, hoping, fingers crossed.
I think just kind of on the topic of Selection Sunday, it's a good example of just how things with the program have changed over the years, whether it be expectation or just kind of the anticipation, like you said, going into it before the WC was a multi-bid league. But just in other ways, how has the program changed? I know you've also said it's been consistent over time, but yeah, just in terms of maybe media coverage or just the way things have changed since you were a player.
Well, I mean, everyone can pronounce the school's name now, so there's that.
Well, some people still,
I know.
Still struggle.
I know, but it's funny now.
Right.
Back then it was annoying. Now it's just kind of amusing.
Right. Like, oh, you can't get it. I mean, Gonzaga's been
it's been
going
30
deep
years.
In the
really? Still no? Okay.
Right.
I mean, it's been a transition from a small mid-major family run. I don't like the term mom and pop, but that it does probably accurately represent what it was. It was a bunch of people who'd been here for a long time running a very small program that hadn't had a lot of consistent success. And suddenly here we are year after year after year. Those first couple of years, it was, are we going to the tournament? And the last 15 years, it's really, where are we going to be seated? So, I mean, that's probably that's probably the biggest change, is the expectation of, it's just, where are we going to?
Talked about mom and pop. I mean, you said you were recruited by Munson, but then you played for Mark Few for all 4 years. Those were the early years for Mark Few.
Yep.
Have you seen his coaching style change at all? Have you seen, just from that sense?
Well, I think he's evolved. I think you also have to realize how young he was when he was the head coach, Gonzaga. I don't know the exact year, but I remember being a player and him working out on a Sunday. And I told him I was shocked to see him, and he said 36 isn't going to be the year. So he was in his late 30s when he started coaching. I mean, that's pretty young to have that level of responsibility, especially with the stress and expectations that Gonzaga was just starting to develop at that point. So yeah, his coaching style has changed. I think he relates to the players in a different way. He was not that much older than us back then, and now there's a 2-generation age gap. So I don't know exactly how it's changed, but it can't not have.
And obviously, players come and go in a program. Mark Few has kind of been the staple, the piece that stayed the same. But there's also been a ton of administration that stayed the same from those late 90s teams, and when some of those people came in the late 90s in the administration. How is that consistency, particularly as we've transitioned to the NIL era? How has that helped Gonzaga kind of stay on top nationally and stay where they're at and continue to grow?
Well, I think it's helped protect the culture. I mean, the basketball team obviously has its own culture, but the athletic department also has its own culture. A lot of those people came in those building years in the late 90s, early 2000s, where we were becoming successful. The athletic department needed more help. They brought in a ton of people who were only a couple years out of school. They came in as grad assistants, things of that nature, and a lot of them have stayed. I mean, Chris Stanifer's been here since I was a player. The next 4 or 5 people underneath him have been here since I was a player, and all came in as very young people then, and they're still on the younger side. So we have a very young athletic department that is very able to be flexible and move with the dynamic nature of the success and the NIL. They've been able to adapt. But still, I think what it means to be a Zag has been very important to them, and its top to bottom culture is pretty consistent.
How was the fanfare back then? Was there still the same level of student support that you see today? I mean, now there's big watch parties for events like this.
I think the watch parties were pretty regional back then. I mean, they were in Spokane, they were in Seattle, they were in Portland, they were maybe in the Bay. Now they're all over the country. But it was such an exciting time. I don't think you can compare what's happening now, where they expect to win, with what happened when we did win. We flew home from the tournament at midnight and this is pre 9/11, so anybody could get past security. There was all of Terminal A at Spokane Airport was packed with people from the moment we got off the plane to the moment we got to baggage. And they drove us to the university. There's another 4,000 people sitting out in front of the Kennedy Center
Wow.
with
Yeah.
a stage erected. It's not the same because things like that only happen once, and now we know they're going to happen every year. So the level of excitement is different, but obviously Gonzaga is bigger than it's ever been. But it's hard to compare it to those first couple of years where it was something truly exceptional, amazing, and out of the ordinary.
And it's fun for me to see I watched the documentary that just came out on the Zags, and it's fun for me to get kind of that history of some of those early days when I was just a little baby, and kind of seeing how has it gone from where it was to where it is now. And you were there recruited by Monson, were there for playing under Few for his first year. What has it been like seeing them go from you guys being kind of that quote unquote Cinderella that everybody viewed you as, to now being on the other side of that? How do you maintain that mindset now as a top seed as Gonzaga to not take your foot off the gas or overlook a small or lower ranked opponent?
Well, that goes back to that culture answer earlier. Like, it is the culture. We're going to dive on the floor. We're going to take a charge. We've had some missteps this year where we obviously didn't show up to play. But across the board, we've got guys who come out and work hard. And talking to the coaching staff, those same guys are committed in practice. They're doing all the same things that maybe not some of the stupid things we used to do 30 years ago when they didn't know any better.
And probably a little bit less, eyeballs.
Well, probably that too.
Yeah, right.
There was no concussion.
social media?
There was no concussion syndrome
Okay,
back then.
sure.
That wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
So all that has changed. Obviously, it's run like a pro-level program now. They have oversight. They have complete medical. They have a lot of things that we didn't have as a mid-major with the smallest budget in the WCC at the time. Like, it's not the same school, but the people are the same. The culture of working hard and going the extra mile is the same, and that's why we keep.
We talked before we started this show just about NIL and just how many things have changed. We've also just talked about change a lot so far on this podcast. But how do you feel like Gonzaga has been able to maintain its culture through these changes through college? You don't necessarily have to talk about NIL specifically, but even with the transfer portal, guys jumping ship, it seems like Gonzaga is still a program where, if you are that one and done type prospect, you can still come here and do that. But for a lot of guys, it's still, you can sit 1 year and then, like in Braden Huff's example, then you can immediately be impactful. How do you feel like Gonzaga has been able to navigate just the changes to the landscape?
The word is recruiting, but there's a nuance to it. We don't just recruit talent. We recruit fit. Like, that is something that they've been doing since the early 2000s. Like, when I played, it was almost self-selecting. We had an opportunity to chime in on our opinion on every single player the university was recruiting. Like, they literally brought them to campus, sat them in front of us. We took them out for the weekend, and at the end of the weekend, they sat us all down and was, what do you think? Is this a good fit? Should this person come here? Obviously, that's probably not happening now, but the coaching staff is doing the same thing. They're looking very hard at work ethic, attitude. Obviously, we get to select from a pool that has a ton of talent, so we don't have to chase the talent anymore. Now we get to chase the person and the personality, and do they belong here, and are they going to represent and fit in well with what we do?
So you're saying there's an identity to being a Zag both on the floor and off the floor.
100%.
And just as an aside for those watching, we're reacting. We have a TV right here of CBS's Selection Sunday show. So we'll break out and talk about Gonzaga once they get selected, and same thing with Idaho, just briefly. But, as we continue on, just kind of talk about, as a student athlete, was that kind of a different experience back then? Do you feel like, obviously you're the biggest guy on campus, like literally, and, playing for Gonzaga. There's only so many guys on a basketball team. You're probably recognized everywhere. Do you feel like that student athlete experience is different?
It has to be. Well, one, we were poor, so there's that. Like,
No
we
NIL.
were
Yeah.
still trying
Right.
to figure out how to pay for rent if we were living off campus, or how we were going to eat if the cafeteria closed before we got out of practice. Like, we had a ton of financial concerns that obviously these players don't have to deal with. They're also not integrated into the bigger university experiences. They have more resources. They've got academic resources that we didn't have. I was told to go talk to my professors and tell them I was going to miss class and ask them how I was going to make that up. Now there's an entire department that helps players, not just basketball, but the entire athletic department helps all of those student athletes navigate that experience. So yeah, it is very different. And these are pros, and they are treated like professionals.
Now, be honest, do you ever get jealous, or do you feel like you're happy that maybe you got a more authentic student-athlete experience? You got to be the big guy on campus, but also still got just that full Gonzaga experience as well, maybe a little bit less separated from the regular student body.
Yeah, there's two parts to that. One, I had a great college experience. Take basketball out of it. Take being a Zag out of it. I had a great college experience.
Sure.
I lived in the dorms. I lived with non-athletes off campus after I moved off campus. I had through college parties. Probably drank too much sometimes. We had a good time. I had part of the average campus experience. And on the other side, I signed up to play college basketball for a scholarship and no compensation. So I can't be upset that it's different now, 25 years later. Like, would it have been nice to have been paid? Sure. But the world was different.
Sure.
I still got an amazing opportunity that has allowed me to do a lot of things in my life. It's been a lot of fun.
We're actually going to break out real quick. Gonzaga just got named a 3 seed. That was, I think, Quinn, that was your projection as well. That was my projection. They're going to play Kennesaw State.
Yeah, Kennesaw State, the Owls.
Okay.
They're coming out. Former ASUN team. They are now they've moved to Conference USA, I believe. Yes, Conference USA. Took down Louisiana Tech in their final. They were 6th seed coming out of Conference USA. So a little bit of a shock for the Kennesaw State Owls to get out of their conference, but they're going to be a tough team, usually play with a fast pace and have some very good guard play with some guards that can really shoot the three. So that's always a struggle for higher ranked teams against lower ranked teams. If they get hot from the three, that can be a real problem.
And get hot.
So that should be a great matchup for them. That'll be a lot of fun down there in Portland.
Well, it seemed like in a lot of ways Gonzaga was projected maybe on that 4 line, maybe as high as 5, but after Bama lost to Ole Miss in the SEC quarterfinals, at least a lot of projection models boosted Gonzaga up there. We'll continue diving in deeper as this second hour goes on. But Zach, I'm curious, Gonzaga, they're facing a team upsets happen all the time in this tournament. What's kind of the I'm sure the mentality is maybe the same as any other game, or at least you would say that. But kind of, I guess facing a team that's maybe a 14 when you're a 3, just kind of, you could talk about what the mentality is, or even just like what's kind of the mindset?
Well, the risk.
And how do you avoid upsets? I think
the risk is playing not to lose.
Okay.
I mean, anytime you play not to lose, you run the risk of losing. You have to prepare to go out and play to win. The prep for this game will be the same as it is for every other game. One coach will take defense, one coach will take offense. There'll be a consistent strategy. The players will learn the lineup and the roster and know what everybody else does. They'll know what all the other players' pet moves, ticks are. Like, there will be a scouting report that's pages long, and everyone on the way down the bench is going to have to know it before the game. We used to get quizzed in the locker room during pregame on each player, and it was a favorite thing of the coaching staff to ask the big guys what the guards like to do and ask the guards what the big guys like to do, just to make sure that you knew everyone down the sheet.
It's almost like scouting report trivia of sorts.
100%, except for there are no prizes. But that's it. You go out and you prepare like you do for every other game. You do all the things. You keep it as consistent as you possibly can so you can control all the variables. And you don't look at who you're going to play in that next round, which I was looking, and it looks like we might unfortunately somehow run up against BYU again.
Yeah, right. An old WCC
I thought we were done with them.
Right, I did as well. But honestly, those matchups are always fun to watch. And Gonzaga at least has usually gotten the better of them.
Right.
BYU obviously revamped, joining the Big 12. They got AJ DeBanza now. Some more excitement. Maybe not the same BYU teams that Gonzaga was used to playing, although those battles were always great. Seemingly, even when BYU wasn't necessarily at the top of the WCC, because, I mean, if you just kind of look at overall, BYU's run in the WCC really wasn't kind of what people made it out to be when they initially joined the conference. They weren't just immediately winning the conference every year. It was actually quite the opposite. But those battles were always fun to watch. So
Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
we'll
And
see.
never to look too far ahead, but the
Right.
only potential upside with BYU, not that you're ever rooting or hoping to be against injuries, did lose one of their best players in Richie Saunders there at BYU. So a lot of that load has fallen to AJ Debansa. They're the freshman who's dynamic as heck and really, really good player. But that is one silver lining for the Zags if they're able to advance past Kennesaw State. But what are those players feeling on a day like today? Obviously, it's a little bit different now. They know they're going. It's not that same excitement of we
Right.
got in. But what are they feeling today? And how fast do they turn around and start doing those scouting reports, start looking at the film?
Oh, I guarantee you the coaching staff's doing it right now.
Yeah.
Like as soon as that flashed up on the screen, whoever's in charge of this game walked out of the room and is going and pulling the video together and is going to be watching film all night. Players will probably start prepping tomorrow morning. I mean, it's
a quick turnaround.
Yeah,
time.
we've got a
Yeah.
week. And
Right.
they're going to be flying out on Wednesday or Thursday to go play somewhere. So here it goes. But really, it's the same as the thing about the tournament is it's kind of the same schedule as what you do during league. Like you play Thursday and Saturday, or you play Friday and Sunday, and then you have the beginning of the week off and you restart it all again. So it really just kind of, other than the fact that unlike a lot of conferences, we've got a bigger break. It's the same. It's business as usual.
Do you find that bigger break, because some of the Big Ten, the SEC just finished their conference tournament today. Some of those teams will then play 4 days later. Do you think there's an advantage, disadvantage to that, or does it just kind of depend on the circumstance and the team?
I think it depends on the circumstance and the team. Some teams do better. I mean, some teams it's perfect for because, I mean, if you are dealing with injuries, you've got a whole extra week to
Right.
recover and work on things, fix problems. If you've lost somebody, you've got a little more time to practice and fill a hole. But some teams just do better playing consistently and they're the teams that always struggle after the Christmas break. But Gonzaga hasn't shown one way or the other. I think it's kind of,
Right.
I'm ambivalent about it.
Yeah.
And with Braden Huff's injury, as well as Jalen Worley playing, but dealing with his quad contusion, I would assume that this is probably not the worst thing in the world for the Zags to have
No, having an extra
12,
week
13
where
days
he
off.
got to
Yeah.
go to do his PT, recover, that's only can be a positive.
Well, they have it nice in the WCC tournament. I mean, usually they have that double bye. They have to play 2 games,
Yep.
and then they already get a big break. They're not usually the WCC tournament doesn't run up all the way until Selection Sunday.
Right.
They at least get. It's almost like they're playing 2 games in like a week and a half long period. So guys get a chance to rest and recover. We'll see about Braden Huff. Mark Few talked about that a little bit as he was talking about Worley as well.
Yeah.
Just kind of talking about the past for you, Zach. We did talk about upsets, and I just kind of want to know, in 2002, I think it was your junior year, you guys were upset by, I think it was 11th seeded Wyoming.
Yep.
Do losses like that hit any harder, or do you feel like really in that winner go home scenario, there's no like, oh, we should have gotten them because we're just the better team, or is it more just like it's just crushing either way?
It's crushing either way.
Yeah.
But that is more crushing.
Yeah.
Like that one still stands in my mind as one of the worst games in my college career. Like we should have won that game. We really struggled with things that we were generally really good at. I think our backcourt shot 3 for 27 from the 3-point line, not from the 3-point line, from the field. Like we got run over. I mean, yeah, we played at altitude, and there's a whole bunch of other things you kind of look at that played into that. But no, that one hurts because we should have. That was one of the best teams we had in those years, and we should have made a deeper run into the tournament and did not. I mean, losing to ultimately, like when you lose to somebody like Arizona in double OT the following year, and they go on to win the tournament, it's real easy to look back and say, okay, yep, they deserve that. That one doesn't hurt that bad. But losing to somebody who shouldn't have beat you, that hurts.
And after that year, you guys bounce back. You win your first round game, have that instant classic against Arizona where you lose by 1 point in double overtime.
Yep.
Now, it's a little bit different nowadays with so many transfers coming in, but we have that heartbreaking loss for the Zags last year to Houston. How can those guys that were on that team still here kind of use that as motivation going into this season to not let that happen again?
Well, you do exactly that. Use it as motivation. You remember that every time you're miserable, you remember that game, and you dig a little deeper and you go a little harder. Like a lot of these things seem very cliche, And even as almost 50-year-old Zach looks back and uses the language he used when he was 22, talking about things, you realize there is no better way to represent it because it is what you do. Like, you want to say that there's some deeper thing about it, and that yes, that you use it this way. No, you're young and you're working really hard. You just use it to work harder. It is really pretty basic at the end of the day.
Sure. I mean, you talked about the Arizona game. You've talked about facing number 1 seeds. That was your senior year, last collegiate basketball game. Not to bring up a bad memory for you, Gonzaga will have to run into a number 1 seed at some point, obviously, in the tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess not obviously. Maybe the number 1 seed could get upset.
Right.
But just kind of talk about that. This is a very top-heavy year. I think a lot of the number 1 seeds, even the ones who are more injured, what does it take to beat a team that's extra disciplined? Is it limiting turnovers? Is it hitting your shots? Is it just kind of all the same things, just doing them at the highest level?
The shots is something you can't control. The turnovers is something you can control. So you can control the turnovers. That has always been a focus of this program. At the end of the day, the basketball is really just a game of possessions. Those that have the more possessions usually win the game. So it's all other things being equal. So get more possessions. Don't lose yours. Take more away from them. That's the basis of what Gonzaga basketball is built on. Protect the ball at all costs. Don't take unnecessary risk, but push hard.
And this team is probably one of our better defensive teams that we've had in a handful of years.
Yep.
And we certainly have a lot of depth, and despite some injuries and things now. How much does that translate to being able to defend and then, like you said, not turning the ball over, even when you're not hitting shots? How much does that, of an advantage does that give you just to keep you in games, even when shots aren't falling?
It gives you more flexibility. And you can throw more, especially with more depth, you can throw more combinations at another team. If something is not working, we can try something else because we have different players to put on the floor that can fit. We're not locked into one. And we've transitioned to being a much smaller team in the last couple of weeks. Vogel has come on and really had an opportunity to shine. I think he's still raw, but I like watching him play because he's exciting, and you can tell that kid wants it and is working very hard. Does he take some shots that I'm roll my eyes at? Sure, he does. You can see Mark rolling his eyes on the court, but he's pushing so hard and wants it so badly. You got to feel good about it. So that's the thing that depth gives you. You get the opportunity to go, okay, we're going to run an undersized floor for 4 minutes, see if they adapt to the additional pressure. Hey, we're going to go big for the next 4 or 5 minutes and see if we can take every single rebound away from them and make sure that they don't score anything inside 15 feet. You just keep changing and seeing what works.
And on that note, I am very excited to watch Davis Vogel along with Mario Saint-Cyprien here in the tournament. 2 freshmen that I think, obviously locally here, we've seen their growth throughout this year, but nationally, I don't know if people really know who they are quite yet on the national scale. To some extent they do, but not fully. And I think that, you look back to 2015, Grayson Allen in the Final Four, those freshmen that have kind of breakout plays and breakout moments in the tournament. I look to those 2 guys as guys for the Zags that could really bring that. And is that something that you think they could offer and kind of bring that spark off the bench?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and in 2 very different ways. Vogel is definitely more raw, tremendous amount of talent. I mean, like I said, the kid's a lot of fun to watch. Saint-Cyprien, you can tell he's played some high-level basketball before.
Yes.
He has a level of composure you rarely see from freshmen. He takes care of the ball. He's watching. He sees things. I mean, he exploits a lot of things that you wouldn't expect a freshman to see on the floor and be able to take advantage of. He does a great job of controlling pace and tempo. I'd like to see more variation in pace and tempo from him. I think he tends to be fairly consistent in the speed he plays at, as opposed to slowing it down and then pushing hard. But he's got a level of composure, and he's obviously in a refined leadership role out there already that I think he's going to be very successful in the tournament.
Well, just kind of on the topic of freshmen, talk about, I know you said you redshirted your first year at Gonzaga, but what did it feel like really entering the program from an extent, like once you actually got to play? Just talk about that. Did you feel like you were on a shorter leash? Did you feel like kind of once you got to play, Mark just kind of let you go? Talk about being a freshman in this program, whether or not you are a true freshman or a redshirt.
Well, I was lucky in the fact that I was on a team that had a place for me as a freshman to be successful. There were not a ton of other big guys. in front of me, and definitely not a ton that fit my style of play and body type. I was playing along Casey Calvary, Mark Spink, Axel Dench, so kind of the gamut in terms of styles of play for bigger players at Gonzaga at the time. So if I was a good fit and matchup for who we were playing against, I got a lot of playing time. Like I think I averaged almost 10 minutes, 12 minutes a game as a freshman. That's probably too high, but either way, I was on the court a lot. But obviously, freshman, there was a short leash. I could not make too many mistakes, or I was coming off for at least a talking to, if not sitting down for a while.
Do you feel like Mark at all coached you or talked to you different as a freshman versus your senior year once that came around?
Oh, 100%. Your role in team leadership changes as things progress. I mean, was I team captain as a senior? Yeah, I was team captain as a senior. Like, obviously, you're involved in decision-making, not so much tactics or anything about that, but sometimes you're involved in decision-making as a senior about how are we going to manage some of these younger players? Some of these kids are struggling with things off the floor, academically. How is the team going to help them out? So as you get older, I mean, you become slowly into I would say, an older brother role with the other players. And obviously, you engage with the coaching staff about those things. If somebody's not bringing it, it's the older guy's responsibility to go and kick them in the hindquarters a little bit and get everybody moving in the right direction. It's not just the coach yelling, getting everybody motivated. It's your seniors on the team. Back then, when people stayed for a long duration, they played a huge part in that continuation of culture that I was talking about earlier.
And as far as their play style goes, I think the Zags have been pretty consistent with that inside-outside approach, usually having a dominant big or two that they go to. Throughout your course, obviously, that was kind of the MO and style in the early days, and they've stuck with that despite kind of the three-point explosion in just basketball in general, not just college basketball. Now you start to see some teams in recent years, Purdue with Zach Edey, obviously Drew Timme, Graham Ike this year here at Gonzaga, Arizona with Krivas. Some of these teams have gone back to that inside-out ball. And what does it mean to have a dominant big in the tournament and be able to have that reliable center or forward piece that you can go to when you need a bucket or something easy just to get yourself back on track?
Well, it gives you a real easy way to control momentum, which is one critical factor. If you have a big that you can count on and know that if we get him the ball in a good spot, we're going to get on points on the board. If you're hitting a rough patch, you can transition and call, okay, we're going to Graham. He is going to fix this problem of, hey, we've blown 3 possessions in a row. They've been on a 9-point run. We need to stop that. Because, momentum is a thing in basketball. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
That's why coaches call timeouts. That's why point guards slow the ball down and stand at the top of the key and yell at everybody for a couple seconds before they start running plays. A guy like Graham can instantly change the game and get the entire team back on course. If you've got a good big man, you just get more good open threes. Like, if the ball goes in and they have to adapt to that because they know he's going to score, it just means somebody else is getting a better shot than they would have otherwise.
Well, you talk about the role of a Gonzaga big, and specifically reference Graham Ike. He's also able to step out. In a lot of ways, he's Gonzaga's best presence down low, and in some games, he's their most consistent presence from three-point range. And you kind of mentioned just establishing the post, opening things up outside. Sometimes you see Graham take an early 3 just to kind of keep the defense honest with him, and maybe establish the low post for other guys, especially with Braden Huff being out. Just talk a little bit more about kind of the load that he's carrying offensively. I know a lot of people are talking about which role players need to really break out, but it seems like, if Graham Ike is getting shut down, it's just not going to happen for them. So just talk a little bit more about his role and just his importance to the team, because it seems like he's being asked to do something that not a lot of other Gonzaga bigs, including Drew Timme, were ever asked to do.
Well, with Huff being out, he's definitely being asked to do a lot of things that nobody else is needed to do. He does bring that inside-out factor, which is, kind of critical for his success, and also makes it easy for him to succeed. Because if his defender can just wait for him to get to the block and just start beating on him when he gets there, that makes for a really long game. But if that defender has to chase him and be outside, doesn't have the ability to help on the wings and guards if they penetrate and attack, easier shots for them, makes it a lot easier for him to get position. Because if somebody's just waiting for you, they have a chance to square up and be set. If he's moving dynamically, he has a chance to seal, spin, get a low block position that would be substantially better than he would get otherwise. I mean, as long as he doesn't settle for that 10, 15-foot fadeaway shot to the baseline and continues to move everything towards the rim, he's going to continue to be successful. And that just means it's going to make it easier for those role players to get the points they need to.
On a similar vein, different position, but with Tyon Grant Foster, from what you've watched, what is kind of the dynamic that he's brought in? Because he's a great getting into the lane, scoring, obviously, but also kind of creating plays for others, whether it be for Ike or getting their shooters involved. What has kind of been the impact that you've been able to see from him, and what can he bring for this tournament run?
Well, he's doing that same thing I said Ike needs to do. He's getting things going towards the basket. Anytime you get things going towards the basket, suddenly you've got foul pressure. Suddenly you've demanded the other team cheat, hedge, opens other players up more. It's fun to see that kind of slashing, attacking style out of a player, which is something we haven't had a ton of the last couple seasons. He's just fun to watch too.
Yeah.
Like, he's active, he's long, he makes things happen on defense, and he is a bit of a risk taker. Like, he goes after things, but he hasn't gotten burned badly too many times.
No,
because he is athletic enough to not get it and still recover.
also like a true spark plug off the bench. Was there anyone in your playing days who kind of maybe not the same play style as Tyon, but at least provided that spark where maybe they were good enough to start, but maybe in some cases Mark just wanted them to run with the second unit and just kind of provide a jolt of energy? Is there any player that comes to mind?
Depending on the year, I mean, Mike Nielsen was WCC Defender of the Year maybe 2 years in a row. Was going to dive on the floor, was going to run right through a screen, let alone get over it or get under it. Like, Mike was a big, strong, athletic defender who just worked harder than whoever he was playing against. And you knew that as soon as Mike was on somebody, well, we don't need to worry about them scoring anymore. They're done. Like, let's worry about the other four guys. Mike's got this part of the court just taken care of and locked up. And every year there's always somebody like that, but that's the one that jumps immediately.
We talk about defensive toughness. Idaho just got matched up with Houston as a 2. I think it was a 2-15 matchup there.
Yep.
What do you think about that, Quinn?
Well, that's going to, regardless if we are, the Zags saw last season how difficult it is to play against those Houston Cougars and Kelvin Sampson's team, just a juggernaut defensively. I think the one bright side that Idaho Vandals, not the one, but one big bright spot that they have is that they shoot a ton of threes. Almost half of their field goals attempt this season have been from three. No, they're relatively up and down. There are games where they're hitting a ton of them, games where they're missing a lot of them. But if they can have a game where they can hit those threes and with the volume that they shoot, they have a chance to stay in that game. Houston, while as great as they are defensively, not the most prolific offensive team. So if you can hit some threes and, with the size that Idaho has in the middle, if you can kind of battle with their bigs and keep their guards out of the paint, you will have a chance and be able to be in that game. It'll probably be pretty low scoring, if I had to guess, knowing how Houston plays. I mean,
just the fact they made it this far is historic. And I even have just kind of a few stats or a few different nuggets to pull up. It's their first tournament since 1990. It's their 5th time in program history making the tournament. I think they went 9-9 in conference play. I have to check that. I know they had a 2-6 stretch during late January and early February. They really didn't seem like they were in the Big Sky race at all.
Right.
Just another example of, a team wins the conference tournament. Doesn't really matter who you are or how you did during the regular season.
Yep.
It punches your ticket.
Yeah, not about how you start, it's about how you finish.
Right.
And Idaho men finished super hot, winning 4 games in 5 days in their conference tournament to get here, including taking down the hottest team in the conference, Eastern Washington, who would rattle off about
another regional
8 out of 9. Yep, another regional team to end the year. So they took them down, ended the Montana State dynasty, beating Montana, not Montana State.
Totally.
Just good to see the Vandals get there for the first time in over 30 years. And we'll see if they have any 1982 magic like they did when they made the Sweet 16 with Dan Munson Sr.
Well, I mean, they showed some flashes. They beat WSU on the road early in the season. I think they were tied at halftime with Notre Dame in one game. So it's good to see them here, especially after that midseason slump that they had. They're a balanced scoring team. 4 players average over 12 points a game. But like you said, they shoot a lot of threes. Almost 40% of their points, which is 35th nationally, were from beyond the arc. And also, like, that doesn't necessarily mean they make a lot. Like you said, I think
Right.
they're about 34.5%, which I don't know the exact NCAA average, but
Yeah.
usually it's
probably right
assumed
around-
35
yeah.
is kind of the average for
Yep.
the NBA and college. It could be slightly different.
Right.
But like you said, you make a lot of threes or take a lot of threes, you have a chance to really upset anyone.
Absolutely. And just a fun team for us local people here in
Yes.
Spokane, Coeur d'Alene area to watch. Obviously, a lot of Idaho kids, a lot of local kids, including Colton Mitchell, who was a Big Sky All-Conference honorable mention, as well as on the All-Conference tournament team right there from Lake City High School over in Coeur d'Alene. So he's been kind of their main catalyst, kind of the straw that stirs the drink for them. So that'd be very fun for locals here to get to watch Colton Mitchell go up against that vaunted Houston defense.
And who knows, maybe it's a turning point for the program. Zach, you were a part of the turning point for Gonzaga. You've obviously talked a lot about those early days, but yeah, I mean, when you look back now, especially with where Gonzaga's risen to, who knows if that'll be Idaho at any point. But just, is it funny? Is it almost just like you really couldn't have any, or did it feel like you were a part of something bigger than yourself in those years, in those early 2000s?
Well, I felt like you were part of something bigger, but you had no idea where it was going. Like, I don't think any of us back then expected to keep winning. 'Cause no one ever keeps winning. Teams,
Right.
programs always fall off, always fail. The fact that this has happened is astounding. But yeah, no, it was something amazing to be a part of. We knew that we were special. We worked really hard to continue to make it special every year, but the fact that it rolled on is just surreal.
Well, we're actually going to wrap up here in this first hour. I think it's about 3:40. Zach, I just want to thank you for coming in, being generous with your time. Is there anything that maybe you want to plug or anything you got going on in your own life that you want to share?
Well, I am like many former players here in the local. My wife and I run an architecture and interior design firm. So we're Design for the People. We're actually having a grand opening here in a couple of months because we're in the middle of remodeling a new space. So if when the tournament's over and people are bored and hate their living rooms, they can come see me. That's about it.
Yeah, let us know. We'd be happy to cover anything you got going on architecturally. Who knows?
We can do that.
But yeah, thank you again, Zach. I really appreciate it. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We'll dive a little bit deeper into those matchups for Gonzaga and Idaho. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Welcome back to SWX's live YouTube podcast here for Selection Sunday. If you're just joining us now, I'm Henry Kruger. Alongside me is Quinn Carey. Just in a second here, we're going to get it pulled up, but we're going to listen to Idaho head coach Alex Pribble talk about just Idaho's placement, the history with the program. Take it.
But I mean it with all my heart. It is a great time to be a Vandal. It really is, right? This program, this athletic department's university, there's been some ups and downs just like anything else. And to be able to do this the same year that our great women's program has done it. And look, I've been a part of a lot of universities, and in some athletic departments, the coaching staffs don't get along very well, right? It's just a reality. They feel like they're competing with each other, and that's not the way it is here, right? Coach Arthur and I have supported each other all the way through. I love watching his practices, and Coach Drew and Derek and Lindsay, and I learn from them and I talk to them, and to be able to do this the same time that they're doing it, to be able to do it the same time that our great, Coach Ford's got good momentum. They're going to do some great things next year. Coach Jeremy and the women's soccer team are doing unbelievable things. Coach Noon and the golf team, Sana and Raleigh and the tennis team. Like, there's so much momentum within our athletic department. That speaks volumes to Terry and the administration, right? It speaks volumes to President Scott Green and the way he wants things run here. If you care about Vandal athletics in this university, there's no better time than right now to be a Vandal and to support these programs and keep moving this momentum forward. A raising tide raises all boats, right? And that's where we're at right now. There's great momentum in this department. There's great momentum at this university. Our admissions are growing. Our fundraising's growing. Like, what a time to be a Vandal. And I couldn't be more proud to be a part of it.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thank you. Go Vandals.
All right, so we're going to bring up a couple players now. We'll bring up Isaiah Brickner and Jackson Rasmussen. We'll let them get settled, and then we'll open up for questions to media.
I'll sit in the middle one.
Just pass it back and forth.
My bad.
And it's a little bit loud.
Yeah, say less. Got you.
All right, y'all boys ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll open up for questions for student athletes.
And guys, this goes for both of you. You waited 36 years, obviously, of this program to get back to the NCAA tournament. You waited 68 teams to get announced, right? I saw you guys, everyone that was a 16, 15, 14 seed, you all had your phones out, you were ready to go. Just kind of how poetic is that you guys are the last team announced, and what was that whole experience like that last hour?
Want to go?
I think it was really cool, and honestly made it a lot more fun that we were the last team announced. We got to stay here longer, and the anticipation just grew more and more and more as each name was called. So, I thought it was pretty special that we were able to be the last team called.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. It was super fun, just letting the anticipation build up. Being the last team to be selected, it was crazy. Just super exciting.
This question is for both of you guys. So going to the Big Sky tournament, you win out, you win this championship. How do you carry that momentum into the NCAA tournament? I know it's a whole different animal, but how do you carry that momentum from that success to the next game and so on?
Yeah. I would just say continuing to do what we do and trusting each other and playing together. I feel like in that tournament, everything kind of just clicked at the right time. We kind of started playing to our potential. We knew what we were capable of all year. We had spurts for sure, but I feel like those last 4 games, we really locked in and took the coaching, understood what we were capable of, and executed it.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with what Zay said, just doing what we do. I feel like we kind of, in those last 4 games, started playing with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder. Not saying that we didn't throughout the whole season, but more especially in those last 4. And we were just going out there and playing with, our coach talks about a lot, but just having purpose in what we're doing and just having a lot of fun.
I got one for Isaiah. So at the end of the Big Sky game, we ran too deep and you had that leak away dunk, but you just kind of did a normal 2-hand dunk. So I'm wondering, in the NCAA tournament, maybe you'll do a little extra sauce. Like, what do you have planned for us?
That's a good question. That's a good question. We'll see. Honestly, I might give y'all a little something extra. I was saving those dunks for the championship already, so maybe in the tournament I'll give a little something more. We'll see.
your guys' phones have got to be blowing up right now. I guess just how many missed calls, how many unread text messages do you guys each have right now, and how many have you gotten since Wednesday? And what does that speak to just the network of support that you've had throughout your lives and careers?
Yeah, I mean, I just peeked on my phone really quick for a second. I already had like 2 calls and, I don't even know, 20 messages just from all my friends and family. So, I mean, it's just such a surreal moment, super fun.
Yeah, no, it was same for me. Just seeing all my people, my circle, congratulating me after the championship game. It was just so awesome to see. We definitely felt the love from all the Vandals and then all my family back home. So it was pretty special.
Jackson, this is your first year, obviously, with the Vandals. You're going to the NCAA tournament. What does that mean for you? And then Isaiah, running it back, going to the tournament this year. What does it mean for you to do this with the program?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been, written down in my goals. Was the very first thing since I got here was winning a Big Sky championship, and be able to cross that off and, achieve that goal is just something super special, and something I take a lot of pride in for the state of Idaho.
Yeah, I would say the same. Going to the championship, winning a Big Sky championship, that's always been one of my goals in my collegiate career. So to be able to do that in my senior year here at the University of Idaho, it's just been super special. To be part of history like that with this team, it's special, honestly.
And this one's for both of you guys. What's it mean to represent Idaho and the Vandals at this stage after being away from it for over 30 years?
Special, for real. Never experienced anything like this in my life, so to be able to go through this with all these Vandals in here right now and all the people behind us supporting us, it's just special and it's super exciting. So, we're going to go out there on Thursday and we're going to have fun and give it our all and try and get this thing done. So, super excited.
Yeah, I mean, kind of what Zay said, special. I mean, ever since we first got here, kind of like Coach Pribb said, you always want to do something special in this building, and we did it, so.
Coach kind of talked about it. This is kind of for both you guys, but Coach kind of talked about how regular season was a bit of a roller coaster. I mean, I was here for a game against you guys played Weber State, and Jackson had some trouble making some shots. Isaiah came in and provided a big load. But just tell me a little bit, are you guys playing your best basketball going into March Madness?
I honestly don't even feel like we're playing our best basketball yet, to keep it real with you. I think we're playing really well together, and I think we're having fun out there, but, I mean, we didn't shoot the ball great at all in the tournament. So I think offensively, I think we still have another level that we can tap into, which, hopefully that, comes to click on Thursday. So I think we still have a different level that we can get to, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Zay. I think the tournament was the best we've been playing this season, but it's not the best we can play and that we know we can play.
Isaiah, this for you. So obviously you guys aren't immune to checking your phones, checking the brackets. There's 150 out there, bracketology all week long, right? Houston seemed to be the most commonly mocked team that you guys were going to play, but how aware were you guys as a team? Were you looking at that at all? Were you looking at different scenarios where we might be going, who we might be playing, and what's the excitement level to get a team like Houston?
Yeah. I mean, you can't not look. It's all over your phone. So we were definitely looking the last couple of days trying to see, generally who we were going to play, but at the end of the day, you really have no idea, so you can't really plan for anything. It's kind of just, like you said, that anticipation, waiting. We're the last seed and get to play Houston. And to play Houston, man, it's honestly going to be so exciting, so fun. I'm just really excited to play a high-level team like that, go out and just show what we can do together out there on the court. So, yeah, I'm just excited. It's going to be fun.
You guys started the season upsetting a Cougar team. Obviously, you're facing another Cougar. Well, how do you guys kind of manage the emotions, the expectations of a game like this? And I guess how do you kind of brew an upset? Do you consider it an upset, or do you just think about it like a win?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like after we won the championship, we kind of been this happy-go-lucky, just celebrating a little bit, but now that's kind of locking in on who we are playing. It's kind of like that flip the switch and kind of change our mindset into locking in for the game.
I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, yeah. how do you kind of manage the emotions of facing a team like Houston? And you guys started the season obviously beating Washington State Cougars, and now facing the Houston Cougars. Do you consider it an upset, and how do you kind of prepare yourself to play your best and manufacture a win?
Yeah. So definitely, like Jackson said, after the tournament, super high on emotions, all, celebrating and all that. But like you said, it's time to get ready to play another game. So we're going to have fun through this whole process, enjoy it and all, but we're definitely going out there trying to win. So.
All right, last question.
This one's for Isaiah. So, all season, it seems like, fashion and drip is kind of like a big part of your game, off court and on court. So how are you going to kind of take that into the national stage and kind of have you ever repeated an outfit?
Repeated the outfit? Nah. Never. You got a follow-up, though?
Follow-up? What about, to the grocery store?
If I go to the grocery store, maybe, gray sweats and, a black hoodie, but, I don't go to the grocery store, though.
All right, thanks, fellas. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Very shady.
Yep, give us a countdown. Welcome back. We just heard from the Vandals and head coach Alex Pribble. Exciting time, historic day for the program.
Absolutely.
Gwen, just talk about the identity of this team.
Well, from what I've watched, as we talked about earlier, obviously this team shoots a ton of threes. They kind of live and die by the three. I forget exactly what the number, but in games where they shot below 30%, their win percentage was not very good at all. In games that they shot above about 33%, kind of that average, they were close to undefeated in those games. So really kind of dependent on their three-point success is a big deal for them. Also a great rebounding team. They're out rebounding teams by about 6 to 7 rebounds a game. Also averaging about 10.5 offensive rebounds a game, which is a huge thing, particularly, again, being a lower seed in the tournament, playing a team like Houston who cleans up the glass and is hard to get offensive rebounds
Good defensive
against.
Team.
But if you can get those against Houston, and then that leads to a lot of kick-out threes. If you get offensive rebounds, those are usually backbreakers for the defense because the defense all collapse. Everyone's trying to go get that rebound. If you get that, that opens things up for the three-point shooting. So if they can kind of lean into that rebounding, three-point shooting identity, I think they're going to have a chance here against Houston.
Well, I'm looking down right now. I have some stats about rebounding and three-point shooting. Idaho grabs almost 80% of their opponents' misses, excuse me. So they really crash the defensive boards. 7 players average over 3 rebounds per game. Nobody above 6. It's clearly a team effort. Some of the big names to keep in mind when it comes to rebounding: Brody Robury, 6'11" center. This team doesn't have a lot of size outside of him, so it'll be interesting to see how their front court matches up against a Power 5 team, especially like Houston, especially a good defensive team.
Yes.
And we also touched on shooting. You were referencing just some stats. In Idaho's 14 losses this season, the Vandals are shooting just 29.2% from long range. And their 21 wins, they are shooting 38.6%. When you played Division II and Division III basketball, just talk about the importance of shooting. I mean, honestly, in general, just talk about what that opens up for a team, what it does for them, especially in a tournament like this.
Absolutely. So I myself was a shooter, so I take a lot of pride, and I could be slightly biased on this topic in that regard, but I think shooting brings so much, particularly, again, when you are one of the lower seeded teams in this tournament. The ability to make shots is a huge deal. And, I think you can look back all the way to UMBC when they beat Virginia as the 16 seed. Nobody gave them a chance, but their pace of play was such that they kind of controlled possessions. They didn't turn it over, and then they just made their shots. And so they were kicking out. And Virginia plays a very similar style to Houston, kind of that rough and tough, grind it out defensively, going to score probably in the 60s typically. And when you play a team like that, having the ability to shoot and the ability to get inside out, which Idaho does, again, Houston's going to make that a lot more difficult than a lot of the Big Sky opponents have with Emmanuel Sharp. Joseph Tugler in the middle is actually slightly smaller than Roberry, but he is athletic as heck and is going to make, he's a great shot blocker, rebounder, so going to make things difficult there. But if you can hit your shots, again, like I said earlier, particularly against a team like Houston, that just makes things so much easier. Now all of a sudden, Roberry may have a chance to post up inside, and those spacing might kind of open up for teams. So the ability to hit the three-point shot, you see it over and over again in years past. Teams that are either getting into the paint and getting high percentage layup shots, which again, against a team that's bigger, probably a little bit more athletic, is hard to do. You need to hit your outside shots, and that can really open everything up for a team offensively. And just personally, from my experience, when you're a guard, when you're a guy that's scorer, shooter, you see a couple of those goes in, all of a sudden you're playing a little harder on the defensive end. Right. You're locked in, things start clicking a little better. So you start hitting shots and anything can happen in March.
It's a big momentum shifter. And just kind of focusing on the other side of the ball, Idaho doesn't force many turnovers. They're 291st in steal rate. They're 335th in block rate. That's according to Ken Pomeroy's rankings. Big stats guy myself, so I like to look at that. And it's kind of a good database just for college basketball in general. If you just want to weigh the strength of teams, offensively, defensively, look at advanced stats like adjusted tempo, how fast the team plays. Yeah. It's a great resource. And so defensively, Idaho is really built on ending possessions and winning the rebound battle, not necessarily ending possessions through steals, but just on the glass. And that's going to be tough against a Houston team. Do you think their front court has what it takes against a Power 5 conference team?
I think they're going to I think they're going to surprise people. I think they have what it takes to go back and forth. Again, Houston has just an incredible front court. I think the biggest challenge for Idaho is going to be from the guard position, defensive rebounding wise, because those guards with Uzan and Sharp at Houston, those guys are huge. They're big, physical. They look like, particularly Sharp looks like a NFL linebacker out there. So those guys contribute a ton to Houston's defensive and offensive rebounding getting in there. So I think it's going to be huge for the Idaho guards to get physical, get a body on somebody, and keep those guys off the glass. And I think inside, if Roberry can handle their center, I think that they have a chance to rebound. It's going to come a lot down to those guards, though, and how physical they're going to get, particularly on the perimeter, keeping out Sharp and Uzan from getting into the paint, getting offensive rebounds, and getting easy ones.
Yeah, I mean, really the culture with physicality starts with their head coach, Sampson. And, this is a team that gave Gonzaga fits last year. Even some of Gonzaga's most physical guards, Caliph Battle's a great example. Yeah. I mean, one of the last possessions of the game, might have even been the last possession of the game. I can't totally remember. He was forced out of bounds. I mean, just ball pressure, just absolutely. It's something that, even a team like Gonzaga, playing in the WCC, let alone a team like Idaho competing in the Big Sky, it's just not something they're used to.
Right.
And a lot of ball pressure can throw a team off, especially if, they're getting pressed full court, or even if they're getting picked up just immediately right way at the half court. So it'll be an interesting matchup to see. Focusing on Gonzaga, I think we're going to hear hopefully from Mark Few pretty soon. But just looking at that matchup against Kennesaw State, do you have anything in particular that you're looking at?
Yeah, well, looking kind of through Kennesaw State, having watched them a little bit, they're kind of an interesting team. Their leading scorer in January was suspended and is no longer with the team. So he was leading scorer for about 18 games, no longer there. They've had some guys step up with guard R.J. Johnson, who is now their leading scorer since then, as well as forward Braden Liu. They play a really fast pace, so they want to get up and down. They want to play in transition. Kennesaw State's a team that forces turnovers. I just had it pulled up here. They're forcing about 12.5 turnovers a game from teams. So they're looking to speed you up, turn you over, get out in transition. So Zags are going to have to control the ball, control the pace, not get sped up, which I think Gonzaga, that's something they're really, really great at, is not getting sped up, kind of controlling the ball. And then I think controlling that pace. I think Kennesaw State wants to get in their game where you're running up and down, and so do the Zags. So they want to get in transition and play. So it's going to be interesting. It's probably going to be a high scoring, going to be a back and forth game. I think for the Zags standpoint, with Graham Ike, they have a great advantage inside. So I think they have a bigger benefit to maybe slow things down, limit possessions. And if you take care of the ball and go inside, I think they can have a lot of success against this team that's a little bit guard heavy at the top of the rotation.
Well, I think it'll be an exciting first round matchup. I mean, you talk about two teams that play fast, force turnovers, score off those turnovers. It puts a lot of pressure on guards, specifically for Gonzaga with Braden Smith and Mario Saint-Superi. They have a lot just to kind of think about as far as just slowing things down, not getting sped up, limiting turnovers, not letting momentum get in their way. Obviously, in Mario's case, he's a young guard.
Yeah.
When you're handed the keys to an offense and, things just aren't going your way, it's a big responsibility for an 18, 19-year-old to try to turn things around, especially on really college basketball's biggest stage.
Yeah.
But Gonzaga's really shape-shifted as a team over the season. I mean, when they lost Braden Huff earlier in the year, they've really been relying more on their defense and length to beat teams. They've had some of their freshmen. We talked about Mario, but also Davis Fogel stepping up there. Fogel averaging, I think, around 10 points, 4.4 rebounds, 2.1 assists as a freshman. I mean, same thing with Mario, shooting 43.4% from three. So just a lot to look forward to. Obviously, I think in some ways this team is going to have to find their identity in March, and that's not always an easy thing to do, especially when you're trying to work out some kinks later in the season. But they can rely on that elite interior defense, that turnover creation. And, with losing Huff, really just being resilient through adversity is something that can also guide them through the tournament.
Absolutely. And I think while Huff is a huge loss, I do think that opened the door for Davis Fogel to get extended time and get a little bit more action, which we've been able to see his growth over the last month and a half,
Absolutely.
2 months, how much he's grown. And, I hate to even make the comparison because this is a lofty expectation and this is not to at all compare the two necessarily and insult Adam Morrison, a Gonzaga legend. But I see a lot of flashes of young Adam Morrison and Davis Fogel, just kind of that
Wiry
the body
scorer.
type. Yeah,
Yes,
that
absolutely.
wiry body type, just fearless.
Right.
It looks like every time he gets the ball, he is looking to just attack you and get to the rim or get a shot off. Or not as much looking to get his teammates involved quite yet, but still, he's scoring at a great clip as a freshman. And so I think he's going to have some moments. Again, Kennesaw State relies heavily on their guards. Not a great front court team or backcourt team. And on that wing, they don't have a ton of size. So I think that could be a matchup where Davis Fogel could use his athleticism and exploit that wing matchup in this one.
When you talk about Fogel, I mean, him being fearless, Gonzaga's had some, high-profile freshmen in the past. Hunter Salas is a good example. Dusty Stromer is a good example. Both of those guys, I don't think fearless is necessarily the word that you would describe for them. Obviously, Hunter Salas went on to have a good career at Wake Forest, but it's rare to see a guy in Gonzaga's system just immediately hit the ground running, whether or not they redshirted or not. I mean, it's just impressive to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kennesaw State should be a good matchup. Like we said, it should be exciting. We've talked a little bit about, role players, which role players could break out for Gonzaga. But really, I mean, Graham Ike, that's the key to success for the Zags. And, if he gets shut down, there's really not much Gonzaga can do. Talk about Graham Ike's impact.
Yeah, he's going to be huge. He, particularly since Huff went down, really everything starts and ends with Graham Ike for the Zags. He is just anchoring things offensively. When he is not in, they've gone on stretches where they've struggled to score at times and things like that. So I expect high usage rate out of Graham Ike. I expect to see a lot of inside-out type of game. I think Fogel and Grant Foster can have a lot of success, particularly in this first weekend of matchups that they'll potentially have, cutting off the ball and using Ike's presence inside to have cutting lanes, which will open up shooters, as well as potential layups for themselves with all the attention that Graham Ike is going to command, because I assume every team coming into this is going to say, you shut down Ike and we have ourselves a chance.
Right.
So they're going to have to know that they're going to have a target on their back. Everyone's going to stop Ike, and other guys are going to have to be willing and ready to step up and make plays off the attention that he's going to bring.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see. You talk about Grant Foster. He had one of the best games of his Gonzaga career during the tournament. Yeah, I mean, we've seen fans, some of them complain about him taking a lot of threes. He's also not a great free throw shooter, but they're going to need him to be aggressive. They're going to need all these guys to be aggressive, putting up shots. If you see an open shot, you just have to take it. There really isn't a lot of room for error. You just have to hope that it goes in or that you're feeling hot that night. But yeah, I mean, they run into a team that hits a lot of threes, and if Gonzaga just can't answer, it's going to be difficult.
Yep, absolutely. The three-point shooting, I think guys are going to have to step up like Saint Supri. I wonder guys like Steele Venters, guys like that are on the bench that, have not quite played as much as maybe some of us thought and expected going in. You never know what type of game might be going on somewhere down the tournament where we need to bring in somebody to bring us a spark. So guys got to be ready to step up and hit shots. I think Ike is going to, again, command a ton of attention, so there should be open shots on the perimeter, and it's going to come down to whether these guys can knock them down.
Well, you bring up Steele. I mean, rotationally, it's been an interesting year where, it seemed like at the start of the season, Mark was comfortably able to play 9 or 10 guys.
Yep.
Obviously, Huff went down. Worley's been in and out, or at least not at 100% when he has played. Even a guy like Steele, though, I mean, he was playing heavily at the start of the year.
Right.
His role has gone down a bit. So we'll have to see. I mean, whether Mark is going to rely on 9 guys or whether he's going to keep it at 7. I mean, in the NBA, you see a lot of teams shorten their rotation in March, and maybe he'll do the same or keep it as short as it has been.
100%.
Historically, Mark has been a 7 or 8 man rotation kind of coach. So I think that's another storyline. How is this team going to be coached? I mean, rotationally, do you have any?
Well, it's interesting because at the beginning of the year, it did feel like this was one of the deeper teams that they've had in a long time, and they were going 9, 10 deep in their rotations, lots of games. But you are right, in years past, and it's few. I saw this with my college coach, with just college coaches across the country. You get to this February, March time, and you kind of start shrinking that lineup. You have your guys that, not necessarily that you trust them more, but they've just proven that this is what they know how to do, what you want to do, execute what you're running. Just for whatever reason, that group might have a certain rhythm and things going for it. So lineup oftentimes gets condensed, but again, in these tournament games, any random game, particularly as you move forward round by round, there can be a game where your starters or your top 7 just don't have it, and you need that spark plug. And we've seen it over and over again in years past. So all those guys on the bench, even though maybe roles have been reduced as they've gone this season, need to stay sharp and stay ready, because you never know when that number is going to be called. And you just never, like I mentioned, Grayson Allen in 2015 for Duke years ago in the Final Four.
That's a great example.
People didn't really know who he was, and they subbed him in as kind of an energy spark plug, and he turned the entire game around and led Duke to their national championship in that Final Four. So guys like that happen all the time, and the guys on the bench just need to be ready. Guys like Steele Venter, I think, are, with his shooting ability, are guys that could make that impact and come in and give you a quick 6-9 points that change the tide of a game.
We talk about Grayson Allen. I mean, it's just another good example of how really this tournament makes players into stars. I mean, there are some of them are already stars, but especially for smaller teams, not Duke, but other teams. I mean, it can take a small program player and really give them stardom. Looking otherwise, just through the rest of Gonzaga's region, some interesting names. Obviously, we talked a little bit about BYU being placed in their region. Always great matchups with BYU.
Yes.
We thought we were done with them. Guess we're not. Also, Purdue. I was actually in Detroit 2 years ago when Gonzaga's season was ended in the Sweet 16 by Purdue. I was hoping to maybe get 2 games out of that trip, get to go to the Elite Eight as well. But when you run into Zach Edey, even when you have Timmy and whoever, it's tough. And then also looking down, Miami, Missouri, also in that region. But what I find interesting in the West region is Arizona's in there, and that's a program where head coach Tommy Lloyd has a level of familiarity with the Zags that really almost no other coach has in college basketball. We actually talked a little bit about, before we had Zach Gordon, he was talking about when Tommy used to coach at Gonzaga, he was one of the first guys to really revolutionize a modern offensive approach in terms of maybe not having a playbook that's 3 inches thick, but having kind of more modern sets and positions for guys to get into, and then maybe just running a motion or running something else. You don't see the Zags run a ton of set plays unless it's late in the game. So I don't know if you have any thoughts, Quinn, on just the rest of the West region, but just some interesting names. High Point's in there. Wisconsin's in there.
And, one team to keep an eye on, Arizona, I think. Arizona's playing great right now. Tommy Lloyd's had that program playing great for a couple of years, but they have a great inside-outside type of game as well. They're kind of reversed from the Zags there. Center Krivas kind of anchors everything defensively, and the guards kind of run the things offensively for them. But they're playing great, like a well-oiled machine. But the team that I would keep an eye on, and honestly, it's a matchup that there could be an upset in, but if there's not, you could see this team make a deep run, is that Hawaii versus Arkansas matchup. The Hawaii Rainbow Warriors, many thought they maybe would end up matching up with the Zags, which would have been a great matchup. They're a great team, just won their Big West Conference last night. But Arkansas winning the SEC tournament with Coach Cal back doing his thing in the SEC, and their guard Darius Acuff.
One of the best guards in the country.
A lot of people have heard of him, but many probably have not watched him or had a chance to see much of him. But he is as explosive as it gets, as pure of a scorer as we have in college basketball right now, and there's some great scorers out there. So I would not be shocked at all to see Coach Cal and Arkansas make another deep run here out of this the side of the bracket.
It's interesting. I mean, Hawaii, it's kind of a classic matchup here where there could be an upset. It could be a good pick to pick Hawaii in this Hawaii-Arkansas matchup just because, classic Calipari team, young for Arkansas. And then Hawaii is one of the oldest teams in this tournament. Their top 4 scorers are all seniors. They crashed the defensive glass. They're 22nd in opposing 2-point field goal percentage, 29th in the country in opposing 3-point percentage. And like you said, they won the Big West. So
yeah,
another matchup to look out for. We're actually going to take a break right now. Bell Lewis is going to join us just in a second, probably about 5 minutes, to talk about travel pricing. We know Zag fans travel. We'll have a little tidbit too on Vandals fans. Now that we know they're not in the first four, I think Bell was, at least anticipating Dayton, and then obviously had to change and make some adjustments as well.
Yep.
But yeah, we'll come back and we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. Welcome back. We're still streaming here live on SWX's YouTube page. Alongside me again, Quinn Carey. I'm Henry, and joining us is Belle Lewis. We'll get to her in just a second, but Mario St. Superi is sitting down right now with our AJ Howell in SWX.
In the locker room, you know, they're the winners of their conference. That means they're a very good team, and as my other team has told you, they play at a really fast pace. Then we just gotta be ready for it, you know.
Absolutely. You know, for them, it's their second ever appearance in the NCAA tournament. That can carry a lot of emotion. How do you guys, you know, make sure that you guys don't get overly emotional and do what you normally do?
Well, obviously, as I told you, they're a great team, and I think they're gonna give their 100%. We just gotta face it like every other game. You know, we just gotta go play great defense, play great offense, and get the win.
So obviously you are one of the players that's really just had like standout performances coming in and immediately making an impact. Do you feel that pressure now that people might expect that out of you?
Well, there's always expectations, you know, but I feel I'm a person, I really like the pressure, you know. I like to play with pressure. That makes me give my best, and I think that's what's going to happen in the tournament.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Mario.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Guys, back to you. Thanks. Sorry, I tried to turn it down so you wouldn't hear that. It was crazy.
Got the team chat? Or you got that? Oh,
Yep.
It's the first one. Welcome back here live on SWX's YouTube page. You just heard from Mario St. Superi. Joined again with Belle. Belle, you're here to talk about travel costs. Portland, that's not a bad draw for the Zags. Only 5 hours away. Probably a lot of fans driving. As we know, Zag fans travel. Just kind of give us a little price comparison there, driving or flying.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, this is very close, right? So Zags fans, extremely lucky. You're not having to go that far. But of course, we do have to talk about gas prices. Right now, according to AAA, gas is sitting around $4.88 for Washington. So if you are getting that, full tank of gas heading over to Oregon, good news, as you get into Oregon, according to AAA, you're going to have a little bit less to pay in gas. So that's good. You're going to sit more in the 4.5 area. Of course, you could see some spikes as the week goes on, making those prices a little bit more expensive. But of course, you can also fly. That's an option. We've got Spokane International Airport just right down the street, just 10 minutes from where we are right now. According to Experian, those flights are ranging between $500 and $650, depending on the route that you take if you're going direct. And I went ahead and looked for the day before that first round game just to give you a little bit of breathing room before that first game is set to play. Again, those round trips costing between $500 and $650. And then if you are traveling out of town, you need a place to stay, you need a hotel room. Good news, there's a lot of options, but they will book up fast. But those are sitting around $150 to $210 a night. That's according to Trivago. So again, this is, pretty affordable if you are looking to go. Of course, the tickets themselves, the further you advance in the tournament, the more expensive that those tickets are going to be. But for that first round, we're actually talking more in the range of, and this is the right number, is $69.15 for the first round. So that's not even as expensive as I thought.
No.
I thought it was going to be much more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the second round, again, you're going to see that price increase. Ticketmaster has it for $150. And then, of course, prices and fees and all of that extra good stuff. And so, yeah, that would be one thing that you can do. And if you are going down there, there's plenty of other things to do. There's plenty of good food. I actually looked up some fun things to do. Because, you come down for basketball, but you want to experience the city.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And that's part of the draw, of course, of having these tournaments in towns all over the United States.
It's great for the cities. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's a hopscotch immersive art experience that I was interested in. So I looked up the price of that if it was my trip and I was going. And that's about $24 a person. You get to go through. They're going to do some fun stuff for March Madness that you can do, like interactive art experiences. So that looks like it's a lot of fun. And then I did want to look up food because I am a foodie. And
Portland's a great food city.
Yeah. If you're going to a basketball game, you have to eat like an athlete or as much of an athlete. That's what I was told.
Right.
The bone marrow clam chowder, I looked it up. It's really highly rated, and it's about $30 for your meal. So not that expensive, very highly rated. No. Make a reservation. I'm sure they're going to be busy because if I found it that easily, other people are going to find it really easily. But that's kind of the price breakdown for the Gonzaga men, what you could be looking at heading into those first and second rounds. And those prices are based on us advancing into that second round.
Right. Have you looked ahead at all, at least to the regional or the Final Four? If you want to talk about Vandals traveling, we could do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get into the Vandals first
Okay, yeah.
because my prediction was wrong. I kind of had them sitting in those first 4 games and then
Us too. Yeah,
going into the actual bracket. So I had based all my calculations
On Dayton.
Yeah. And then, surprise, we're going to Oklahoma City. And so I went ahead and did some math on that too. And according to Experian round trip, you're looking around the neighborhood of 575 to 650. So actually pretty comparable to what you'd be getting to go to Oregon, which was sort of shocking to me. Of course, this is a longer flight time.
Right.
You are looking at more delays for those cheaper tickets. And for hotels, it's a little bit more expensive. You're going to be sitting closer in the $165 $210 a night range. And that's going to be the closer that you get to that stadium.
Sure.
And again, all of these prices, once these announcements are made and the teams get put into these cities, the prices always jump up.
Immediately
as
jump up. Flights, hotels.
Exactly.
Right.
So this
reservations
is
are taken.
minutes ago.
Yeah. People have to get on it though if they want to travel.
Yes, get on it fast. If you are going to drive, that is a very long drive. It's going to be about 23 hours and 31 minutes.
My goodness.
And the average gas price, it's going to be over $3.50. So the entire way, you're going to get through some variables in gas price. And it's actually going to go down as you kind of make your way down towards Oklahoma City. So that's good. But again, long drive, hotels along the way, of course, to drive safe. And as for tickets, they're actually a little bit more expensive, but not by a ton. We're talking about $750 for the first round. And again, these are the average seat price on Ticketmaster. If you were getting close to the court, you're obviously going to be paying more money. And then it's $160.20 for that second round in Oklahoma City. So, perfect. So yes, why don't we go ahead and actually put up those ticket prices on the board, because we also have some fun things that I found. There's a Cloud Embrace statue that's actually downtown. It's a new addition. It's going to be a lot of fun for people who are looking for something to do while they're there. And it's also in the middle of downtown, according to the maps. And so you can take a nice tour of downtown, get a cool look at that. And then, of course, food. We have to go back to food.
Yes.
I wanted to do something a little different than the clam chowder. So I did the Mickey Mantle Steakhouse.
Whoa.
It is expensive, but it is
It's a
very
steakhouse.
highly
Yeah,
reviewed.
sure.
So I think that sounds like a lot of fun. I mean, this is going to be a good time. Again, the Vandals going straight to Oklahoma City.
Right.
And all these prices, again, are based on making it through that first and second round. So you can make a nice weekend over it. And hopefully the Vandals will be playing on the 19th and on the 21st, which also happens to be when Gonzaga's scheduled to play is on the 19th and the 21st of March. So, maybe tune into the other game while you're watching the one in person, right?
And even then, you can make a trip out of it. Stay in the city, do some fun
Stay in the
things.
city, do some
2
fun
years
stuff.
ago, I went to Detroit to watch Gonzaga play Purdue. Their season ended in the Sweet 16. I still had the option of staying for the Elite Eight. I explored Detroit. That was super fun. Not a city that I necessarily would have taken a vacation to, at least just as someone from the West Coast. And it was a great time. I learned so much. Had great food. It's just a great opportunity to travel. So
I mean, basketball is always fun. I mean,
Yes.
you get to watch a good basketball game. Can't really ask for anything better. But the fun part about March Madness to me and the draw is always they're playing all over the place.
Right.
You're never that far from a
Right.
game. But Gonzaga, of course, significantly closer than the Vandals.
Very
They're making
convenient.
a trek. But
it might be a home game for them.
Yes.
It might feel like that type of home, atmosphere.
Particularly with Kennesaw State coming from Atlanta, Georgia
Right,
area, that
right.
will probably feel like a Zags home game.
Right.
And we know that the Zags travel well. So
Yes.
I expect to see a lot of Zags making that drive or taking a flight. But again, it's so close. I've made that drive before, nice and easy. And then you are going to get a little bit of gas relief headed into Oregon. Just a little bit, but maybe enough to, make that trip.
And
drive it
BYU's
more
in that
exciting.
same Portland placing, right?
Yes. Yep. So
And you're a
if-
BYU alum.
grad.
We
I
know
am-
their fans travel. Yeah, as well.
We do travel well. So I'm excited because I don't know if it's always felt like a fun rivalry between
Sure.
BYU and
Absolutely.
the Zags.
Absolutely.
It always brings out a ton of fans, a ton of people. And when you have two teams that travel well coming to support their teams,
It's going to be a fun regional.
it's going to be a really fun regional. I'm hopeful that we're both there to have just a good game.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I hope that, we can advance out and we can continue
Yeah.
to see the Zags or
Right.
the Cougs for me, but hopefully
Yeah,
the Zags
right.
for everyone else,
Right.
right? It's actually going to be in Houston, I believe, that
Okay.
they're headed to. And those flights are looking about $800 round trip.
Okay.
But again, they tend to jump, especially when you start to see teams make it through that first and second rounds. That's going to
Right.
be a lot of fun. And then, of course, Indianapolis in the beginning of April. That's going to be a pretty expensive trip and a pretty expensive ticket, but it's just like the Super Bowl. I mean, you get fans that come and they're like, I don't even need to get a ticket to the actual event itself. They just want to be in the zone with the fans. So it'll be really fun in Portland to see all the Zags fans, hopefully at all of the big restaurants that I mentioned and just all over
Great
the
for
place.
business. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun. And then, of course, we got women's basketball, their bracket being announced here.
Here in just about 10 minutes.
Can't wait.
Yeah, just 10 minutes. And so, I'll be back to break down the numbers for them too, because, we're going to have some fans traveling for that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Belle, do you have anything to add?
This has been fun.
I know you have to do a hit on TV pretty soon.
I do. But, if you are looking to book, again, I can't say this enough, like the prices have just changed so much since I was looking even 10 minutes ago. So if you are looking to go and support the Zags in that first and second round,
get on it.
It's time to book.
Yeah.
Yes. So if you can save a couple dollars, try to hit some of the sites and just make sure you're keeping an eye on those prices again, because they're just fluctuating all over the place right now.
Well, Belle, thank you so much. Happy
you.
to have you back, hopefully later for the women's tournament, talking pricing again. We're actually going to take a break here before the women's tournament bracket reveal gets started around 5 p.m. Quinn and I will be back. Hopefully we can have Belle around the 30-minute mark, 45-minute mark. It just depends on your schedule. But thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to our live SWX Selection Sunday podcast. We're actually about to get to Mark Few right away. Mark Few?
Earning a 3 seed. Yeah, they do. I think, just talking to people, they're worked with Nate at Alabama. So, I mean, I would expect a very similar style to Alabama to get up and down and shoot threes, offensive rebound, and apply pressure on the basketball, 94 feet. And it sounds like they got a lot of different guys that can score and different nights, somebody else is leading them in scoring. They're on a nice run right now. I think they've won 7 or 8 out of 9 or 10 and, playing their best ball. So those teams are dangerous. I don't know about comfort level. I think it's a lot easier, obviously, travel-wise on our bodies for time, for just familiarity. It's so easy. And, most of all, just when it comes down to these first and second round sites, it's just for your fans, and families and all that, and getting there. So, obviously, that'll be an easy trip for us. Yeah, I have to think about how much experience we have. I mean, Graham's got experience. I'm trying to think who else. Yeah, I mean, a little bit. Yeah, so that's a good point. Tyon has some experience, obviously, and so yeah. I mean, I think the culture of our program and the fact our staff has been through a lot of this, and we got this particular day down pat, and we're pretty organized, pretty efficient with that. It'll do nothing but help. But again, guys, at the end of the day, you get in that game, you just got to make plays. All the teams in this thing are good teams. They either had incredible years like we did all year, or they got hot and won their conference tournament. So they're really dangerous there. So everybody earned their way into this thing, and then now it comes down to just making plays, getting stops and making plays. I mean, I think the competition that we've received within this league, lately has really, really helped. I mean, it's really stepped up. I think it's really nice to see that we got 3 teams in, because we deserve to get 3 teams in, and we didn't do it the kind of the backhanded way where somebody else won the league, and I mean, we had 2 teams that didn't win get at-larges, so I think that's speaks to our strength of those 3 teams, and again, just being challenged by those teams. Obviously, you guys know the non-conference schedule we play, and so all of that should hopefully prepare us for what's to come.
All right, head coach Mark Few with more to say as well. We're in the process right now of posting his full comments, the full interview and press conference on our website. That's swxlocalsports.com. But for now, back to you, Sean.
Good evening and welcome back to our live SWX Selection Sunday podcast. Watching the show, this one on ESPN. We have a TV over there if you see us just kind of looking a little bit off center of the camera. I'm Henry Kruger. I'm joined here by Quinn Carey. Quinn, we're breaking down two exciting teams, both guaranteed. They already punched their ticket by winning the conference tournament, Gonzaga and Idaho.
Yeah.
We can start with Gonzaga. Talk about their identity.
Well, I first wanted to say, Henry, what a great day this has been.
Yes,
as
absolutely.
As a hoops
We're
head,
having fun.
It's just Selection Sunday is one of those great days where it's just so exciting. Getting your brackets is just such an exciting feeling.
Right.
Finding out where your local teams are going to play is such a cool thing. And have the men's side done. Now we got two really, really great women's teams to cover here. Starting with the Zags. They're a really young team. They have 3 all-conference selections in the sense of 2 first-teamers as well as the player of the year and the 6th woman of the year, 2 of which are freshmen in Laura Whitaker and Jaden Hale, and then sophomore Allie Turner was on that first team all-conference. So a super young team with the Zags women missing the tournament last year. This will be a great experience for them. Yeah, they're back in it. This will give those young kids a chance to kind of experience the tournament for the first time.
Improve themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This gives them a chance to prove themselves. We'll probably see them fall on an 11 or 12 line as a seeding-wise. Matched up with a 5 or 6 most likely. And I think they're going to be a live underdog to upset a higher-seeded team because they're playing great. They have a great inside-outside game with Lauren Whitaker averaging, as a freshman again, freshman of the year and player of the year in the conference, averaging a double-double with almost 20 points and 10 rebounds a game. With her working inside when she's rolling, and Allie Turner, who's shooting a crazy 47% from 3 for the season, which is just unbelievable. Total sharpshooter and sniper in Allie Turner. So if those two can get going, those two are really the big catalysts offensively. So if those two can get going, get that inside-outside game going, they're going to have to be good defensively. They're going to have to get up into teams. They're going to have to apply some ball pressure, which is not necessarily always their strength.
Right.
And just like we talked about on the men's side, turnovers are a huge thing. That's the one area where the Zags offensively can struggle. They can be a little bit turnover prone, turnover heavy, but if they can control that, they can hit their shots. When they're in the half court offensively, they can be pretty dominant. So super excited to watch them.
Yes.
They super well-balanced attack from them. Coach Lisa Fortier always has them just kind of well-oiled machine by this time this year. And I think one thing for them is at the end of the season, last game of the year, they got upset by Portland in their conference, who's, again, another tough team. But lost a game that they probably shouldn't have, caused them to drop to the 2 seed in the conference behind Loyola Marymount, who took the 1 seed, eventually was upset by Oregon State, who Gonzaga beat in the WCC championship to make it to the tournament. But I think that loss, it felt like it kind of sparked something. I was watching them play, and they were still winning games, but they had seemed like they'd hit a little bit of a lull, weren't playing their best basketball, took that loss to Portland right at the end of the season. And then their 2 games in the WCC tournament, you could tell that they were just locked in, they were focused. Determined not to turn the ball over, which is huge. They didn't turn it over much in that tournament. They made their shots. Lauren Whitaker, again, as she is just a force inside. So they're starting to play their best basketball right now through that tournament, and I think Fortier's going to have them as a very live underdog in whatever matchup they have.
Talk about Lauren Whitaker, 26-9 to beat OSU for the chip in the WCC. And like you said, just such a young team, especially compared to the last time they were in the tournament, that 2024 team that made a run to the Sweet 16. Really exciting. I think they actually maybe made it to Portland and lost to Texas. If I'm remembering correctly, that team was like 32-4. That might have been one of the best squads that Lisa Fortier has coached. We know she's a great coach. Her players adore her. Really, probably one of the most underrated mid-major coaches just in college basketball. But yeah, I mean, really just the young talent on this team. You talk about Allie Turner, a sophomore now. She really lights it up from 3, 46.7%. From beyond the arc. She has had 7 games with over 4 threes. She made 9 against St. Mary's. I mean,
just
just a little bit of inside baseball, whatever, basketball, I suppose. At Gonzaga games, if your home team, Gonzaga, makes 10 threes, everyone gets to go home with tacos. I think that's still the promo there. She almost did it by herself. Now, granted, I actually don't know if that was on the road or if that was at home, but really just impressive there. 9 threes. I mean, how about that?
Yeah.
The thing with Gonzaga is, especially on the women's side, they don't always get multiple bids. It's usually a 1-bid league, and so this was kind of their way of winning out. As you mentioned, they had some ups and downs this season, but really clutched up when it came time to the tournament. Net ranking at 62, again, hurt by the WCC weak metrics, but they've dominated this conference for a long time. And they've also had seasons where they've had some ups and downs and then made it up in the conference tournament. So
Yeah.
really just a well-coached team. Like you said, most projections have them at 11 or 12.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's their 5th appearance in the last 6 years under Lisa Fortier.
Yeah.
Clearly, she's doing a great job there.
Yeah, just doing a great job. And, I think a couple X factors for the Zags. I mentioned Jaden Hale, 6 Women of the Year in the
Yes.
WCC. Also a freshman named to the all-freshman team in the WCC as well. And there was a couple games as they played Oregon State, or a couple plays, in that Oregon State game to clinch the WCC, where she had not big plays that are going to show up in the stat sheet, but made 2 really, really big defensive stops when the game was about a 2-point game, which those stops led to Zag buckets, getting them up about 6 in those final minutes. And then had 2 huge rebounds that were kind of dagger rebounds, if you can call them such a thing, that just kind of sealed the deal for the Zags and ended things for Oregon State. So another with that combo of 2 freshman post players with Whitaker and Hale. I think those 2 can give other teams a lot of problems and could be a mismatch for other teams in the inside. And then a couple other X factors: guard Zariah Okosu, a junior, so one of the older members of this team. I think it appears that they really look to her leadership throughout the season. Like, she kind of rallies the troops. She kind of keeps everyone in line as kind of that elder stateswoman figure on the team, even as just a junior, but really provides a spark for them as a great downhill threat, gets in the lane, creates plays for others, can score, is averaging close to 9 points a game. So she's going to be huge. And then another one I've talked again a lot about today, shooters that can kind of make a name for themselves and a huge impact in March. Another local kid for us here in Spokane, Coeur d'Alene area is Taryn Gardner, who transferred in from Boise State. She was the 2-time GSL Player of the Year with the Meade Panthers just a few years ago. Has been an excellent shooter in addition for them coming off the bench, shooting about 45% from 3. So with her and Allie Turner shooting above 45% between the two, that could be lethal. And then again, if you have your guards that can hit some shots and some perimeter threes, you can pull an upset and you can beat some teams that are technically higher ranked. And so I anticipate another inside-out type of game plan, but I expect those 2, Gardner and Turner, to get lots of looks. And if they're knocking them down, the Zags are going to be live this whole tournament.
Yeah, and kind of turning things over to Idaho, we're still reacting live to the bracket as it's revealed. Neither Gonzaga or Idaho, I believe, has had their name called yet. But Idaho, 29-5 this season, best season in program history. They won the Big Sky Conference tournament.
Yeah.
I think you said earlier off camera, they're riding an 18-game winning streak entering this tournament. So there's very few teams that are as hot as Idaho right now.
Yes.
What do you think about the Vandals?
Well, they're, as you said, when you win 18 in a row, that kind of speaks for itself. We're probably likely going to see them in a similar seeding range, probably a 13, 14, slightly lower than the Zags, but they should be a pretty good seed coming out of the Big Sky. A really, really well-balanced team. They are just across all 5 starters and all 5 players that are out there. They just have great balance. Led this year by Kyra Gardner, who another local connection from Raymond High School, not quite right here in Spokane, but was a State B Player of the Year for us, was here in Spokane playing in State B about 4 years ago when she was a senior at Raymond. Was at WSU and then transferred in this year. She is the Big Sky Newcomer of the Year. And she has kind of been leading everything offensively, a great skilled scorer at about 6 feet tall, provides some length for them on the wing as well as on the defensive end. Then you have Hope Hossman, the junior point guard.
Tournament MVP.
Yeah, tournament MVP. Kind of plays a similar style to like a Gonzaga John Stockton, where just kind of that classic true point guard gets everyone involved, facilitates, doesn't turn it over much.
Of the offense.
Exactly. Hits her shots when she needs to. So super well-balanced attack coming from Idaho, and they are absolutely going to be a live dog against whoever they play.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a team effort, 6 players averaging above 3 rebounds a game. Also, I believe a second-year head coach. So to have the best season in program history, at least regular season-wise and tournament-wise, like that's just clearly the program is changing.
Right.
They didn't have as much of a tournament drought as the men did, but I do believe it has been quite a few years since they've been back in the tournament. So we'll see where they go dancing or where they get placed here. I think in just a second, they still have to announce the 5 and 12 matchups and 4 and 13 for this regional 2. Women's tournament is a little bit different, where kind of within that quadrant of 4 teams, each quadrant, the best team in there gets to host the first and second round. So that's something different.
Absolutely.
Gonzaga got to have that in 2024. Obviously, neither Gonzaga or Idaho will probably have the pleasure of hosting this year.
Right.
But it's really cool.
Yeah,
it brings a lot of fans over here. I believe the year that Gonzaga did it, Spokane was also hosting some of the tournament on the men's side. I could be wrong about that. So just a whole flood of people coming to Spokane.
Yeah.
Great for the city. It's also cool to have like that home atmosphere.
Absolutely.
Even if it's for the best team in that quadrant.
Yeah.
That's just a cool thing. So yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to see where they go probably in just a second here.
Yeah.
I don't know if you mentioned Dos Santos. She's obviously a great rebounder, pick and roll executor.
Yes, absolutely.
Strong team defense, like you said, just a full team effort. They were able to hold teams in the Big Sky tournament under 57 points. They've been resilient in close games, and I think being resilient is a big, preparation type thing for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And they had a great test in their conference championship. Played Montana State, Montana schools in basketball have had a little bit of a dynasty almost going over the last couple of years on both
the Big
sides.
Sky, yeah.
Montana State had the conference player of the year, and they did not fully shut her down because it's hard to shut down a player of the year. And, I'm going to stop myself right there. We just saw
Gonzaga just came in. Gonzaga
Yes.
versus Ole Miss,
Gonzaga.
going to Minneapolis. Gonzaga actually, I'm blanking on the name of the second tier tournament on the women's side, but Gonzaga actually played in Minneapolis last year. They did not
for the
make the
WNIT.
tournament.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So a familiar location for this team.
Yeah.
A lot of the same players, especially Allie Turner
Right.
there. Exciting. Against Ole Miss. It'll be a SEC challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to take a look. I think actually right now we're going to take a break. We'll dive deeper into that matchup once we come back. But yeah.
Awesome.
Welcome back. We are live here on SWX's YouTube channel. Again, I'm Henry Kruger. This is Quinn Carey. We actually just learned where Gonzaga will face, or where they will go and who they will face in the first round. They're going to face off against Ole Miss. Quinn, you want to talk a little bit about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So Ole Miss, like a lot of SEC teams, they want to get out in transition. They are going to have crazy ball pressure. They're going to get up and try to pressure you. From what I've watched this year with Ole Miss is that they really want to try to turn you over. A great defensive team. They're great rebounding. They're out-rebounding teams by over 8 rebounds a game, which is pretty insane. And then they are forcing 18 turnovers a game, which is the kind of key stat that I have starred here. So the Zags are going to have to have great ball control. As I said, one of the areas that they struggle offensively is those turnovers. So they guards like Allie Turner, Taryn Gardner, like I said, Zariah Okosu, they're going to have to handle that pressure. They're going to have to be ready for potential full court ball pressure. And as soon as they cross half court, they're going to be picked up. They're going to have to deal with that. The good thing is that if you can break that pressure, there are lanes to attack and score. I think there will be some opportunities to get inside, get it to Lauren Whitaker, or get inside, drive, and kick out to some shooters. But you're going to have to get past that intense ball pressure to start the defensive series. And then the one thing for Ole Miss is that offensively, not a great half-court offensive team. They want to get out in transition, score easy layups off of your turnovers. Not super great in the half-court. Not a very great three-point shooting team either, only shooting about 29% for the season. Haven't attempted a ton of threes like some teams, but still not a great shooting team. They're looking to get it inside. They're looking to drive the lanes, same type of thing, attack. When they are taking shots, they're looking to get kickouts and open ones. They're not looking to put up a bunch of contested shots. So the Zags are going to have to keep them out of the paint. They're going to have ball pressure, keep those guards out of there from driving and kicking. And Lauren Whitaker, Jaden Hale, they're going to have their hands full guarding their bigs, keeping that ball out of the post, because that's where Ole Miss wants to get offensively if they're not in transition. So going to have to protect the ball, going to have to be ready to get back on defense, and then going to have to be ready to battle for the entire 60 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about their bigs.
40 minutes, excuse me.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Well, you talk about their bigs. One thing that jumps out to me immediately, and it's true for a lot of SEC teams, is the size.
Yes.
I mean, their top scorer, McMahon, averages 20 a game. She's at 6 foot. Iwula, their second leading scorer, is 6'3".
Right.
Lattimore, their third leading scorer, is 6'4". Whitaker will have her hands full just really throughout this game, and it's going to be a battle of physicality. In the WCC, both on the men's and women's side, you don't see the same level of physicality with the bigs that you typically do in the conferences like the SEC or the Big 12. The SEC kind of is the big conference, especially on the women's side.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll have to see. We're also waiting now also for Idaho to hear their name announced. That they have not gotten their name announced yet. I believe we're in a commercial right now, so that'll happen in about 5 minutes. What are some keys? I know you talked about just limiting turnovers. Do you have any other keys for Gonzaga against Ole Miss?
Yeah, I think paint touches are going to be a big one. So in basketball, we talk a ton about paint touches, which is just driving the ball, getting it into that paint, whether or not you score or kick out for a shot, even if it's just getting into the paint and kicking it out, that keeps the defense having to move, that keeps them shifting sides, which will then eventually allow kind of cracks. So for those teams that are really good defensively and super athletic, like Ole Miss, like a lot of those SEC teams are, I think the guards are going to have to, again, handle that ball pressure. Once again, when the ball goes inside, guards got to be able to relocate, either cut to the basket or relocate for shots. They got to knock them down. Your three-point shooting is going to be huge in this one. But again, I think those paint touches, because what that's going to allow is for the guards to get into the lane there, and whether that be a dump off to Whitaker or Hale or one of the post players, you're trying to collapse that defense and kick out. And against a team like this that has so much length and is so athletic, it's going to be hard to just go one-on-one and go one-on-one matchups and win that way. So it's going to be a ton of ball movement. They're going to have to drive the lane. They're going to be strong with the ball. Again, try not to turn it over, which that type of style can lead to, but you're going to have to get in the paint, play off 2 feet, take your jump stops, use your fakes, try to get them in foul trouble. I think that's going to be a key for them offensively outside of just trying to get it into Whitaker as well as handling the ball.
Right. And as we've talked about too, like this is a young team. For a lot of these players, I mean, this is their first tournament appearance.
Yep.
Having to face off against a physical team, that's also a challenge. Ole Miss, for example, I mean, they lost in the semifinal of the SEC tournament. SEC, obviously a great league.
Right.
So losing in the semifinal, I mean, that's probably a 5-bid league or 6-bid league. Who knows? So South Carolina and Texas still waiting to hear their name called. Though it looks like actually Texas just heard their name called. Just a deep conference. Deep conference.
Yeah, just deep. And just again, when you're playing, as the Zags saw in 2024, you are just going to have to give everything you got for 40
Right.
minutes. There's no letting up. These SEC teams will just get up underneath you. They'll turn you over. So even if the Zags find themselves with a 5, 10, 15-point lead at any point in the game, they can't take their foot off the gas, particularly being as young as they are. And if they find themselves down, I think that's going to be the real thing, is that are those freshmen, are those young players, are they going to be able to have the mindset to, because there's going to be runs. At some point, you're going to be
Absolutely.
down at some point in this tournament that you're going to have to battle back from, be resilient. And so I think we're going to learn a lot about this team and their mental makeup as to see how they handle the runs from good and bad. If they have a good run, will they take their foot off the gas? If they have a bad run, are they able to mentally stay in it and keep battling? So I think that's always a test for a young team and is going to be no different for the Zags this year.
You talk about it being a game of runs. I mean, for Gonzaga, a lot of it's going to be shooting. If Ali Turner can convert from beyond the arc, really, I mean, if Gonzaga can go on a 10 or 15-point run, maybe Ole Miss will have trouble answering to that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see. It'll be a good match. It'll be a strong test. It seems like maybe Idaho might hear their name called in just a second.
Yeah.
I think this is only Region 3 here, so we'll have to just wait and see.
Yep. No Idaho yet, so we're
standing by.
we're standing by. I thought they might get the 13, but that's going to
I did
Miami,
too.
Ohio.
Yeah.
Hawks. Waiting.
And also, Bell Lewis will join us in just a second, probably about 10 or 15 minutes to go over travel pricing once we know where Idaho will end up. And obviously, we know now where Gonzaga will end up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, we could take a break. We'll be right back in 5 minutes. Thank you for still joining with us, those who are still with us. We appreciate it. And we'll be right back. Welcome back. We're here live on SWX's YouTube channel. We just learned where Idaho is going for the first round. They're going down to Oklahoma. They're going to play the Sooners, number 4 seed there, Idaho 13. Talk about Oklahoma just a little bit.
Yeah, well, similar in a lot of ways to Ole Miss, like the Zags are playing. Another SEC team, a Big 12 team, but play very similar to an SEC team. They're not a great three-point shooting team, also shooting 29%, same as Ole Miss for the Zags. So that's going to be an area that the Vandals can look to exploit, try to keep them out of the paint, shooting jumpers and perimeter shots. Their big key is that they out-rebound teams by about 12 rebounds a game. So they clean up the glass, starting with their 6'4" center, Reagan Beers, who's averaging about 10 rebounds a game to go along with 16 points a game. So it's going to be a tough battle on the glass, particularly Idaho being a little undersized in comparison. So that's going to be a huge area. The area that they struggle the most is that they're averaging 20 turnovers a game, which is a ton, and they're only forcing about 10 turnovers a game. So they're averaging double the amount of turnovers as their opponents. So that's something the Vandals are going to have to apply ball pressure, try to turn them over, force them into some bad shots, or force them to drive the lane and get a little out of control, try to turn that ball over and get out. And then this is going to be another team. It feels like a recurring theme so far today on this podcast, but if you can hit your shots against them, this is a team that struggles to shoot the three. So if you can trade threes for twos with them, keep them from getting out in transition, the Vandals will have themselves a chance to be in this. And again, it's going to be in Oklahoma. It's always hard to go on the road playing another team's home arena in this type of environment. But I think the Vandals have coming off 18 straight wins. I think mentally they're built for it. I think they're prepared to go in. I don't think they're going to be rattled regardless of who they're playing, but they're not going to be rattled by a home court advantage going into this one.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about Oklahoma having the home court advantage. They went 14-2 at home this season. They ended up losing LSU in the SEC tournament. Another team with size. You talked about Reagan Beers. But yeah, we'll have to see. There are very few teams hotter than Idaho right now. Like you said, 18 straight wins, looking for number 19. Maybe they can pull it off. We'll see.
Another guard, Aaliyah Chavez for Oklahoma too,
Right.
averaging about almost 19 points a game. She's going to be a key, another freshman for them, so a really, really talented freshman. So keeping her and Beers, if they can contain them, the scoring kind of drops off there with the rest of the team in comparison. So if you can keep those two from scoring, you can get out in transition and hit your shots. Again, you'll have a chance of being a live dog there. Going to be another really tough challenge on this women's side because, again, Oklahoma, great team, proven team with a great history. So going to be a challenge for sure, no doubt about that. But every game in March is at this point, so it's going to be fun.
Yeah. And we've talked about just how deep the SEC is. Oklahoma, you might have said Big 12. They recently moved to the SEC.
Excuse me.
No, you're totally
I had
fine.
to double check myself.
I've had to double check myself too on this podcast. No worries. 5th in the conference. The team Gonzaga played or is set to play Ole Miss. Looks like they're about 7 or 8 deep in the conference. So just such a deep. I mean, just to say it again, I mean, I think this is probably an 8 or a 9 bid league. Usually women's basketball, it's a little bit more top heavy. The power conferences really get all the top prospects. But yeah, we'll have to see. Short segment here. We're actually going to take a break and bring back Belle Lewis. She's going to talk about travel pricing for the Zags, hopefully the Vandals too, going down to Oklahoma. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our Selection Sunday live podcast here on YouTube, SWX's YouTube channel. We are joined here by Belle Lewis here to talk about travel costs. Belle, Gonzaga and Idaho just found out where they're going to go. Obviously a different structure with the women's side where, you know, within that little 4 quadrant of teams, you're going to the best ranked team within there. Talk about Gonzaga's trip, going to Minneapolis to play Ole Miss. Just talk about driving prices and flying. What can people expect?
Yeah, I mean, what a fun trip to go to Minneapolis. It's such a fun city. So super excited that the Lady Bulldogs are going to be out there to play their game. But let me walk you through kind of what the prices are going to look like. And let's start with driving, shall we? Because really, it's kind of a long trip. We're talking about 18 hours, not quite as long as driving from the Spokane area down to Oklahoma, which of course is closer to 24 hours. But it's about 18 hours. The gas prices, though, you're going to want to keep your eye on those because national average, again, we're sitting pretty high. We're sitting about the $5.50 range. That's according to AAA. So you are going to get some varying prices as you move through. And again, that's 18 hours without breaks. So you are looking at longer to stop and get gas, take a break, stretch your legs, right? But you will get there in about 18 hours. And then let's go ahead and look at flights, which is how I would be getting there. I don't think I can make that 18-hour drive personally. But if we are talking about flights, you're sitting at just under $1,000 round trip for that flight. So $950 to $975. That's according to Experian.
Okay.
And I went ahead and put us there in my little simulation for numbers the day before, so you get some time to rest, and then kind of gives you the weekend as well to be there. So the next step, of course, if you're going somewhere that's 18 hours away, hopefully you have someone to stay with. But if you don't, you need a hotel. So I went ahead and looked at hotels specifically in downtown Minneapolis. They're actually sitting a little bit lower than I expected to, depending on the hotel and the distance to the actual stadium. You're looking at just under $200 a night. So between $165, $200, depending on the hotel, depending on how many beds you need. And then let's go to the ticket prices. Obviously, we've seen just recently a huge demand for women's basketball in tickets increase. And because we are playing at the highest ranked school versus like a larger stadium that the men's is scheduled to play out of, tickets prices work a little bit different. Actually, they tend to come out a little bit later than the bracket reveal for being able to purchase tickets through the NCAA. So I was looking at some resale prices because there's already going to be a huge shortage of tickets based on their website. They said in some cases they only have 4 pre-order tickets left for some of these locations. So resellers, got to get on it if you want a ticket, but resellers are going to be sitting right in that $100, $110 range. And that's for the first session, so for round 1. So that's a breakdown. And then, of course, if you are in Minneapolis, I was just on there with Sean. He says you have to go and take the Prince walking tour, go and see all the things there. I think a downtown walking tour sounds great. I found some very highly rated ones for under $100, so that might be an option for you. And then, of course, there's some great restaurants. I found one that's called the Red Rabbit that does sort of American food, burgers, that sort of thing. Looks really great. That would be my pick if I was headed out there. So there's a lot to do, a lot to see out there for the Gonzaga women. And then, of course, the Vandal women going much closer, I think, than probably anyone anticipated. They're going to Oklahoma too. Actually, just like 30 minutes south of Oklahoma City,
which is where the men are going. Right.
Yep.
Vandal fans can get a 2-for-1.
Yes.
That's what I said. I think the women play first. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they play first. And so, buy a ticket for them, buy a ticket to go see the men. You can make a weekend out of it. A little bit longer weekend, but
sure.
Got to do what you got to do.
But less expensive travel to see 2 different, of your favorite teams play. And it's already been a historic season for the Vandals just on the men's and women's side. So make the most of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we went through the numbers a little bit earlier, but just to recap, we can take a look at those car prices. Again, it's about a 24-hour drive. It's 23 hours and like 30 minutes, I think. And of course, with breaks, you're dealing with the variable gas prices. Right. You're going to be sitting again at like $5.50 a gallon, with variations as you make your way down to Oklahoma City. And then, of course, there's the hotels. Again, downtown, you're sitting under that $200 range. Most of them are between $130 and $160 that I found. Again, the closer you get to the stadium, the less availability. And these prices do tend to jump the closer that you get to these events. So, again, the sooner you want to book, the better. And then just to kind of go through, again, the tickets, the graphic that we have actually that you should be seeing right now is the men's ticket prices. So that first round coming in at about $70 and then the second round at $160. But again, the women's tickets run a little bit differently. The NCAA, one, it's a more limited number of tickets usually. And 2, those tend to be rolled out either in waves or in pre-sale. So again, looking at resellers and first round tickets in the past, again, we're sitting at around the $100, which is actually more than with resellers reselling those first round tickets. That's actually more than the first round tickets for the men, according to the numbers that I've seen. But again, these numbers are jumping around all the time as demand changes. So that's that's kind of what you could do in a weekend there. But like you said, it's close. You're in Oklahoma City.
right.
You can stay in the area.
It's
You
very
can
convenient. Yeah.
go for, I mean, it sounds like you're going to have to act fast to get these women's tickets. It seems like they're rolling off the shelves pretty quickly. But if you do happen to be lucky enough to get tickets to both, you could witness a pretty historic March Madness experience for both the Lady Vandals and for the men's team. So that's pretty cool.
Be a great weekend for the Vandals. Maybe you see 2 upsets. Who knows?
Yeah, it's a lot of
lots
fun
to look forward to.
I mean, March Madness is always so fun, right?
Yes.
And so I can just imagine
On the men's and women's side, absolutely.
men's and women's time, a lot of fun, a lot of good times. I mean, you can watch basketball all day. What's better than that?
Yep, couldn't agree more.
So that'll be a lot of fun. And then, of course, looking forward to the women's bracket. They were released second. We just saw those live placements,
right.
seeing what's happening. It's going to be a lot of fun. It looks like they got some good matchups. I'm excited about Gonzaga playing Ole Miss. I think that's going to be a really good pairing for them. And then hopefully we get to see a long run for the women's team into March Madness as that goes on. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you so much, Belle. Is there anything we didn't ask you about that you want to touch on?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean, I love basketball, so I'm excited to watch some really good. I'm tall. I'm 6 foot. And so I'm really excited to watch some really tall female basketball players just absolutely own the key during March Madness. That's always my favorite part. You can always tell when you've got a good, strong person in the back of the court that's got good court vision. I think that that's absolutely essential to advancing in this tournament. And it's always fun to me to watch these teams work together and learn how to play in this, because March Madness is absolutely different than regular season. There's a lot going on. You're playing teams that you might not have played in your regular season. In fact, most of the teams that you do not play in your regular season, for men and for women. And so it's always really fun to watch that first round game, to be like, okay, this is how we're going to approach this. And then to move on and to have kind of less and less time to prepare heading into the later rounds, especially between round 1 and 2, and then into the Sweet 16, Elite 8, and then to the Final 4. So it's always a fun thing to watch a team get to advance. And again, I think this is going to be a really good season for Gonzaga. I think we've got some good progress that can be made. And for the Vandals, I think that we're in for some exciting games. And like you said, what's better than a full weekend of basketball?
And I was telling Henry, I was telling Henry just before this that I think the Idaho women, with their experience level, they have a lot of upperclassmen. They're going to go into this not intimidated by Oklahoma's crowd, by all this
And
stuff.
their
They're going to go in
18 straight in a row.
18 straight wins. And then I think for the Zags, they're almost the reverse, where they're so young that I almost feel like they're going into this not knowing what they don't know. So I think they're going to go in guns a-blazing. They play their game with Lauren Whitaker. If they go inside, like you were talking about, there can be tons of success in that inside-outside game for them. So I just think it's going to be a great year for women's basketball in this area, and can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I think that there's benefits to both being like a really young team and being a really experienced team, because I think sometimes with those really young teams, you get we're just going to make this work. Like, we don't know how to do it, quote unquote, wrong.
It's like us with this podcast.
Right, exactly. We don't know.
Right.
And that's a good thing, right? Like, you get to make your mistakes early on, and then hopefully that can see you do better and better in subsequent years when you have that young team, versus when you have an experienced team, they've been around the block. Right. They've seen it. They know how to not be in their own heads. They know how to move the ball fluidly, hopefully. And they're probably more adept at, watching this game film, saying, what moves can I make that are going to get me to where I need to be in terms of having my players positioned and knowing how to work against the defense and playing in, an area that maybe I don't have as strong of a home game presence. I think that's something that you also get better with the more years that you play. So I think it's going to be really fun.
Yeah, and both Gonzaga and Idaho on the women's side, kind of in those upset matchups. It's really cool. One cool thing about this tournament is, any team that makes a deep run that isn't expected to necessarily, it becomes a national story. And the best players on those teams become just in the spotlight. So just another exciting thing about March Madness. I think unless you guys have anything else to add, I mean, probably about time. We've been going for 3 hours. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on SWX. It's been real. It's been fun. We brought in Zach Gord initially, former Zag. We were just hoping to go through the first hour. We kept it going. But yeah, thank you so much. And hopefully we can do this in the future, and tune into all our coverage here on SWX as the tournament gets started.